Clark to the rim. An 11-0 Iowa run. As one of the arena cameramen got hit there after the bucket, and the officials stopped play.
Right here, this is Caitlin Clark all on her own, jumping out to double team. She sensed that she could get the steals, that she could create some havoc, and she did, and got the layup the other way. Let's go.
Gabby Marshall approves.
For 2024, the NTT IndyCar Series is underway here in St. Pete. Newgarden leads the field, but watch that orange and black car. Pato Award on the inside, couldn't quite get there.
Oh, but 4 wide further back with Roman Grosjean dropping back. There's contact with some of those green and black cars. That's Marcus Armstrong as well, and Rinus VeeKay comes out the lead of the 3 green and blacks.
This is where we had all the issues last year. The top of your screen, turn 3, it looks like it's all clear. We see Pelot trying to go down the inside of, I think, Christian Lundgaard into turn 4. A little bit of contact there. Everybody getting
Oh,
through.
no, I think Lundgaard's got a flat right rear on the 45.
Willpower, Marcus Armstrong, Scott Dixon. Puncture is the call. Well spotted, T-Bell. This is the Hy-Vee Honda. Problems for Lundgaard. He's wounded.
Jamming up the back of the field here. They're all desperate to get by, but Lundgaard desperate to try to get to pit lane.
So now you see he's gone driver's right to defend against Pelot. Pelot tries to sneak it up the inside.
Oh,
There's the contact.
Who got him?
It was Alex Pelot.
Under caution for the first time on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. Unfortunately, it is for the 23-year-old New Zealander, Marcus Armstrong in the Ridgeline Lubricants Honda. This is what happened. Watch the green car.
Turn 10, just a little hot on the brakes, locks the left front. He thinks about trying to maybe take the overshoot, and he's like, I can make the corner, and he just runs out of room.
This is really going to change the strategy. The lead teams wanted to go about 5 more laps, almost a collision there on pit road, and Joseph Newgarden, who has led every lap to this point, will lose the lead here on pit road. I believe that's Colton Herta that came off with a diff.
Watch the blue and white car. Look at the one in the middle, Colton Herta, but Felix Rosenqvist on the right is ahead. Watch the line out. Rosenqvist wins it, even though Herta goes ahead, but it's addressed once they get back out on track. We're back racing here in St. Pete.
So this will be interesting because Lundgaard probably can hang on here for maybe 4 or 5 laps before he has to make his pit. He'll try to stretch as long as he can as Rinus VeeKay goes inside.
Scott Dixon.
But it also just shows the Ganassi car struggling a bit as Newgarden makes the move on Colton Herta, takes that position back that he lost in pit lane. Very decisive.
Here we go, Award on the inside of Herta.
Again, the tire advantage, and now McLaughlin taking advantage of a slow exit from Colton.
Newgarden now is going to go at Rosenqvist again inside turn 1.
Race lead.
Still there.
Well, effective race lead to Joseph Newgarden. Lundgaard is out in front at the moment, but Joseph Newgarden, who, by the way, won the Rolex 24 at Daytona this year. Here's Pato Award on the inside of his old teammate. He gets Rosenqvist as well.
Look at VeeKay making the move on the red, white, black Verizon car here of Will Power.
So Marcus Ericsson's just started losing positions and has come in here. They have shut off the car, it looks like. So a problem for Marcus Ericsson, the winner last year.
Distinct as we see Linus Lundqvist in the tires at turn 10.
Is there contact with Romain Grosjean? There sure is. The Honko's hauling a Chevy, shoveled him in there. Here we go, green again at St. Pete. Let's race to the end, or will we? Newgarden with a good restart. Award, and look at McLaughlin. He's diving, he's weaving, he's getting impatient. And on the inside, Felix Rosenqvist defends from Will Power. McLaughlin, the white and red car. On the inside, he's going for it on Herta. Good move there from Alex Palou. He gets Felix Rosenqvist, the champ in the DHL Honda. That bright red and yellow car continues to climb his way up the order.
A day that started so promising. Romain Grosjean is not going to end the way he liked. He just pulled into pit lane and just climbed out of the car.
What a way to start a new championship season. Indy 500 winner, Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, St. Pete winner for the third time. The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete belongs to Joseph Newgarden.
Great job, everybody. Really nice execution. Thanks for all the work.
Nicely done, Joseph. Nicely done.
Up next, it's the Thermal Club $1 Million Challenge, Sunday, March 24th at 12:30 p.m. on NBC.
Drivers, start your
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Draft of the Circus program. My name is Frank Santorowski. I'll be your host for the next hour. Joining me, Luis Torres. All of our other guys off on assignment. Richard's actually at North Wilkesboro doing some testing at the track there with the Toyota NASCAR team. And Lee is busy on his jet flying special people around. But Luis is here with me. Luis, how are you tonight, buddy?
As good as the Seattle Kraken's playoff hopes at this point. So it's been going good.
All right, good. Yeah, hey, man, save that Seattle Kraken stuff for our hockey podcast later this weekend. But I do want to thank everybody that tuned in and listened last week. We got a great group of fans over on the We Love Racing Facebook page. And I just want to recognize some of the folks there that tuned in and listened to us. Caitlin Keeley, Tom Atlas, Guy Gusman, Rose Sydney, Ronald Leviscu. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And also, Bubba's About Broke podcast. We're actually going to try to do something with Bubba. Keith's trying to set that up. I've not met Bubba yet, but hopefully, maybe we can help him with a revenue stream because the guy's about broke. So anyway, but thanks so much for tuning in. Also, thanks to Luis Torres of Multimedia. So give him a shout if you can. Great photography work, available for events and stuff. So anyway, big weekend of racing. Let's lead off with INDYCAR because INDYCAR has had the longest off season and we haven't had the opportunity to lead off with INDYCAR yet this year, but let's do that. St. Pete. I think it was the great Lee, who's not with us tonight, who described last year's race as a yard sale. And to a large extent it was. We had, cars airborne driving over top of one another, red flags, blocked tracks. Yeah, what a mess. This year, polar opposite. I think it was it's been a long time since we've seen a nice, clean start at St. Pete without at least somebody kind of getting squirrely in turn 3. And then from there, it was Joseph Newgarden all day. It pretty much dominated the race. I think he's taking a page out of his Max Verstappen handbook. Where we're used to a lot of changes for the lead, a lot of passing in IndyCar races. This one didn't quite deliver that, but certainly Joseph's laying the gauntlet down first race of the season. His Penske teammates came in third and fourth, so that whole team did well. They were split by Pottsville Ward in second place on the podium there for the McLaren team. So, Louise, what were some of your impressions coming out of St. Pete? And then from there, we'll dive into how some of the folks that are in new places are doing this year, because it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Some good, some questionable.
Well, of course, as you mentioned, it was a pretty clean race. Just only turn 10 was like the burden for a lot of people. We'll talk about it shortly. And most one-chip Ganassi racing team for different reasons. But just Newgarden was at a different zip code. He won the pole. He says it has a different mindset after finishing fifth a year ago, which was his worst points finish in 5 years. It comes in, not following he has no distractions, doesn't follow anybody on social media, both through Twitter/X and Instagram, and they made it like a deal about that. But he said that mindset, like, yeah, I won the Indy 500. Yeah, I won 4 times a year ago. I won 80% of the races that Chevy won a year ago, but I want that third Astor Cup. I want that number 1 back to my Penske Chevrolet. And he came on swinging. He led pretty much every lap that there was, except for the cycle of pit stops where Lundgaard stayed out after he had a flat tire. So that put him off sequence at the start of the race because he had a right rear left tire going down. He had to pit and all of that. So that sent him behind the 8 ball. Then Colton Herta, I think it was the other guy that led. It was just 1 lap, but it took a while for Newgarden to really pull away. He still had like couple guys that were in the mix, like Pato, Felix Rosenqvist, and with Rosenqvist, really good 3/4 of the race, but then the final quarter of the race, he faltered away, but he still cannot discredit him, because for a team that he's driving for, it's a step in the right direction for sure. But
yeah, Felix is a guy I want to talk about here in a little bit once we get through the general. But Louise, one of the things a lot of the drivers mentioned that maybe I guess it's probably a bad term to say it ruined the racing, but maybe it made the racing a little less interesting, was the lack of tire degradation. The tires just did not, go off like they generally do, especially the alternates, which were the greens this time around. I know it's confusing because a lot of the drivers still refer to the alternates as the reds, even though they're clearly painted green. But then again, green, red, color blindness is a thing. So we don't
or it's just when you're acclimated to something for so long.
Yeah, you call them the reds, yeah. But the alternates, they to the point that in the Fast Six, Herta didn't even change to the alternates. He did the whole stint on the blacks. Because they just weren't degrading, and there really wasn't a huge advantage to going to the alternates. And some people speculate that, the current Firestone tire was kind of designed with the hybrid stuff in mind. It's going to add some weight to the car. But for now, the cars are pretty darn light compared to where they were. They've got a lighter aero screen, and then, we haven't put that hybrid unit in yet. So I guess they're just not stressing the tires enough, and they're just able to kind of run full speed laps the whole stint without the tires going off.
Yeah, and that's going to be a question mark going into Long Beach, the next 3 courses, to see how those will adapt. Because I know in my years of covering races on location, tire deg is always something that is brought up, and now I feel like that's not only going to be brought up, ponder and stuff. Okay, we got to be really good at what we have right now before we go to the hybrid mid-season. And I think one of the drivers on the podium mentioned, it might have been Pato, who said that you got to start clicking those strong finishes, because in IndyCar you can have one bad race and it's game over, which has always been the case. I mean, I always
use Newgarden,
I always use Bourdais as an example, or even Montoya.
Oh sure, yeah.
Never forget Montoya leading the whole trail, then because of double points and just that one flawed race, his championship dream was over.
That's the one where him and Will Power got into one another on the track, yeah. So
you never know. So But yeah, I did notice that there wasn't really much of a fall off until like we get a fairly good long run. But we had some decent long runs, but not really much in the sense where, okay, this car is truly strong or truly faded. But we did saw some movers and comers and goers in the sense of how they were doing in the first half or even the first 3 quarters, and then how they faltered or moved forward.
Right. And I think that's handling more than tires, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, if you ask me. But let's talk about this, since you mentioned him, Felix Rosenqvist, right? So here's a guy. I've been in the series of numbers here. He's a race winner. He's got a race win to his credit. He was kind of let go by McLaren, who was thinking about hiring Alex Palou, and that never happened, but they let Felix go anyway. So Felix ends up at Meyer-Shank, and Meyer-Shank was pretty much, a disappointment last year.
They were abysmal in qualifying for the most part.
Yeah, and then they had top guys in there. You know, they had Elio, and then they had Simon Pagenaud. Both of these guys Indy 500 winners. You know, and Elio, of course, got like 29, 30 wins. You know, Simon's got a championship to his credit. So, and those guys couldn't do anything with it. Felix come in first race of the season. He's in the Fast Six fighting for the pole. So you got to say, well, what's different? But I mean, if you think about it, if you know Felix, know his reputation, I mean, Felix is a guy that when it comes to the car, he knows what he wants, right? And he's very able to articulate that to his engineers. I mean, Felix is an engineer's dream. He tell the engineers exactly what he wants, and then, they can give that to him. And that's pretty evident. I can see Felix winning a race this year if they keep this up. But again, to your point, the last third of the race started to fall apart. I think he ended up, sixth?
Sixth or seventh.
Sixth or seventh, somewhere in there.
I think it was seventh because Palou passed him towards the end.
Yeah, but he was strong in practice. He was strong in qualifying. He was strong through the first 2/3 of the race. And for that team who struggled so mightily last year, that's got to be a big boost to the team. Not to mention, he's driving a Bon Jovi car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bon Jovi's there at the track. Bon Jovi got the ride in the 2-seater. So it's kind of fun that some of the pre-race stuff we have, Brett Michaels was there and Bon Jovi was there. I'm like, golly, let's break out the old 80s hairband guys. You know what I mean? And have fun with that. So, but man, the look on Bon Jovi's face after he got out of the 2-seater, man, he was like, whoa.
Yeah. I think you mentioned, was it Elio in the 2-seater?
Yeah, Elliot was driving him around, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so which it also is like, well, an Indy 500 contracted Meyer-Shank driver, so that the connections even, but that's besides the point. We'll talk about that in the 80s hairband podcast.
Yeah. But good job for them. Now, as far as his teammate Blomqvist, he struggled a bit, but this is only his second IndyCar start.
Yeah, it's his first full year, so
yeah,
I give him a little bit of time.
Yeah, I give him a little bit of time. So, but speaking of guys in their first start who were decently impressive, I mean, Kiffin Simpson, I think he's punching above his weight. Here's a guy
that too bad.
Here's a guy that nobody expected much out of, right? And then he finished 11th, 10th, 11th.
He was the highest finishing rookie at that race, for
right?
Sure.
But he certainly, he didn't make mistakes, right? He didn't have any issues. He drove clean. He drove smart. He learned what he can, and he was decently quick. He wasn't holding up the rear. He wasn't doing the Stingray Rob, Jack Harvey tour. You know what I mean? So,
no, and he's held his own quite well compared to the other rookies that had trouble, self-inflicted, or just stuff out of their control, or even a car setting on fire coming out of pit road. But he held his own because that's a guy that when you look at his Indy next career, it's like got a podium then and there, but didn't necessarily have the strongest credentials compared to the other rookies, whether it's IMSA or the road to Indy, for example. And I look at Christian Rasmussen, I feel like that setback at the start of the race where he had to come into pit road before, like a lap before the green fly.
Yeah, his car didn't fire at the start. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a bummer on his part because I'd be curious if he would have been up there had that gone away. But He didn't waste much time. He was able to get by a couple of the two or three cars right out of the gate relatively early. So pretty much where he finished is probably where he might have ran, but you never know.
Yeah. But I think that one of my big takeaways from the race is, and I put this in the notes, that the word I used to describe Chip Ganassi racing was uncharacteristically mediocre. And that's, I mean, we had pondered the thought of them expanding to 5 cars, but I mean, none of their guys were truly in the mix for the win. And I mean, Palou and Dixon, for their part, they ran well. I think Armstrong beat them both in qualifying, and he was running a decent race until he, found the wall. So yeah, it's like, okay, so have we stretched it too thin? Because a lot of people, preseason are talking about Palou to repeat for the championship or Dixon to grab number 7. And then here comes Newgarden, somebody else who a lot of folks have high hopes for, just saying, I don't know about that, guys. Because I'm gonna.
And that's the thing I want to lead up to was the Chevrolet. You brought up Newgarden. It's just a Chevy camp. Aside from Rosenqvist, the Honda kind of were not quite. Of course, you had Herta, but aside from Rosenqvist and Herta, to me, and then Ericsson did well until he had his own problems that set him out of the field. Chevrolet,
Ericsson, before we talk about Chevy too much, Ericsson is another guy who looks really comfortable in his new home. But he did find out that being an Andretti driver, get ready for those mechanical gremlins. They tend to have more than the rivals over at Penske and Ganassi. Ask Rossi about that. He'll tell you all about it for days. So, but I think Ericsson is going to be pretty good this year. I had picked him to win this race, and he was up there. He really wasn't in the mix for the win, but of course, the typical Andretti mechanical gremlin. I don't know if that's poor engineering or I don't know what that's due to, but it seem like they have a bit more, you want to call it bad luck with stuff breaking than other teams call it bad luck, or call it what it is. Anyway, so Chevrolet.
Yeah, like Pato talked about even McLaughlin, then a lot of the Chevy drivers and a lot of Chevy personnel went to Europe, had this big meeting. Pato mentioned that he and Rossi were in London. Malukas was there virtually speaking in a virtual setting. That they discussed about that this needs to get better. We need to fix this to be on par with Honda, because as I've alluded to with Newgarden, he won 4 out of the 5 Chevy wins were from Newgarden, all from mobiles, and the one outlier is McLaughlin. So Penske was the only Chevy team to have won. McLaren won 0. So they had this discussion, and then right away from Pato to McLaughlin, they praised Chevy for bringing something really good for St. Pete. It's just a matter of how the rest of the season will go, because in their eyes, Chevys, they are passionate at getting their IndyCar program strong, and they're willing to listen to the competitors. And those look like they did their homework, but now it's just one round. The question is, can they carry it on to Thermal, even though it's a non-points race, but for the $1 million in Long Beach? And then once we get into May and into the summer, how will the Chevys, how much have they adapted? Because it seems like the way they're preaching the choir right now, we could see a Chevy's pretty much in the mix every race and probably take a lot of wins, but time will tell.
Yeah. Newgarden said that in his post-race interview. He said that the drivers got together and told Chevy what they wanted, and said Chevy delivered big time. So, and Honda, it's hard to tell where their head's at. You know what I mean? They've been pretty vocal about wanting a third manufacturer in there, and then all these rumors of them looking to go to NASCAR. So you wonder if, I feel like Chevy's all in. I'm not sure Honda's all in, and that's going to hurt some of these guys, your Ganassis, your Andretti's, and your other Honda teams. So
yeah, and that's one thing I'm glad you brought it up, because I wasn't going to clearly mention it, but I can imply it that Chevy are indeed all in. They want to be up there, because it seems like, yeah, we won the 500, but we want to win everything, including the championship.
Right. Absolutely. So Grosjean, right?
Mm-hmm.
New team, Juncos, right? Really strong in qualifying, but Grosjean's been a good qualifier.
Yeah.
And St. Pete's been a good track for him, but same old Roman Grosjean not running at the finish.
Or some of his old habits kicked in, like with was it with Linus Lundqvist?
Yeah.
In turn 10. Yeah, it's he did pretty well, like in the top 10 in the Juncos car, but his old habits kind of kicked in, being involved in the incident with Lundqvist that he got Grosjean had to serve a drive-through, and then I think a lap after he served a drive-through, then the car gave up on him.
Yeah, but I mean, literally, it's like, how many times is Grosjean not running at the finish? It's his results are not indicative of how he runs sometimes, right? But again, you got to run the whole race, right? And saying he had the same issues in Formula One, So when does the love affair with this guy end? I think a lot of folks are kind of,
I think it wore thin. Like
I think
it's
but I mean, with the fans too, I think a lot of folks were really kind of high on Grosjean, the Phoenix and this, but now we're like, okay, we're like waiting for you to do something, So, but who else?
You're kind of putting him in the Graham Rahal, Connor Daly box. Is that what we're implying? And the when is
I mean, Graham Rahal's won races.
It's been a while though for him, but that's
he almost won one last year. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost doesn't
second
count.
Grand Prix, when he won the pole.
Yep. But Dixon beat him to it. So,
mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, if you're going to lose to somebody, losing to Dixon is, nothing to really be ashamed of. Dixon's beat everybody on the track at one point in time or another. So, anybody else we failed to mention that caught your eye either for the good or for the bad?
I think for a little bit of going back on the good side, and we didn't mention like Santino Ferrucci, just one spot out of the top 10. He quietly stayed out of trouble and showcased that he's making something out of like equipment that is not up to par to the other teams. The question is, again, can he do this consistently throughout the year and not just on the ovals? Because the road to street courts, which was his background, I feel like we still haven't seen that improvement a little bit, in the sense of he's no slouch on the road courses. Like he's had some moments, but when it comes to the four car, when we talk about him in the four car, we talk about the Multimedia Indianapolis, how he was this close to winning it. But road to street courses, we haven't quite seen that yet, per se.
Well, not with the four. We saw a little when he was with Coyne. But again, it's Coyne, you know what I mean? Coyne has had their flashes of brilliance over the years, but it's been a while since they had like Bourdais and over there. So, and then Coyne this year they've got Jack Harvey, who I think he started last, finished last. No, somebody dropped out of the race, saved Jack Harvey from finishing last.
There's several of them, like Stingray.
Yeah, but I think he was the last car running on the track for most of the day, And then here's a guy, again, another guy that people had such high hopes for, and he just hasn't delivered. He had a few bright moments here and there in early portions of race with Myers. He was just struggled at Rahal the whole time he was there, and now Foyt picks him up. I'm like, there's probably other guys you could have picked up, but
they don't have a They don't have a full-time driver period definitively this year. They don't, because Colin Braun is a TV determined based on his IMSA schedule. Yeah, Nolan Siegel, who's running Indy next full-time, and he's gonna make his debut at Long Beach.
Yeah, he's got 4 or 5 races he's doing.
And then
Harvey's contracted for the races that Siegel's not doing, right?
At the moment, they haven't fleshed out the rest of the season yet. So
and they don't know what they're doing with the other car. And they've got other guy. They tested Enzo Fittipaldi. But he's doing a full season of Formula 2. I don't know if he's going to have any time to sneak one in there. But they tested somebody else. I can't remember who it was. But
so it's going to be curious how that team will do with having 2 full-time cars, but no full-time driver. That's going to be the big question mark, is how far off they're going to be.
Well, other than the month of May, Connor Daly's available. All you got to do is call his mom and say, "Mom, go get my helmet." I gotta stop saying bad stuff about Connor Daly because we might have him on the show in a couple weeks. So
yeah, like whereas Rick Ware's side of the NASCAR program is doing a little bit better, mostly through RFK equipment. INDYCAR, I think we're gonna go back to that old trope that we've been saying on the NASCAR end. So there you go. We'll switch off from Connor and throw it to Rick until they unblock me on Twitter.
Yeah. All right, so we've got Thermal coming up in a couple of weeks. That'll be interesting. Get an interesting format with 2 heat races and then a main event with just 12 cars. No points on the line, but $1 million up for grabs. 2,000 fans only. $500 to get in the door, but the $500 pays for your parking. You get club seating, and that's for the whole weekend. Catered food. It's honestly a pretty sweet deal at $500, because it was $2,000. But then I guess they didn't sell them all. So the nice thing, all the people that paid $2,000, they sent them back. They sent all the people back $1,500. So,
and it's a
9:30
a.m. start.
9:30 a.m. local in California.
Yep, that's why it's 12:30 Eastern on NBC. So yeah.
Breakfast race, huh?
Yeah.
I guess the catered food is going to be some like eggs Benedict and stuff like that,
Yeah, I'm not sure
fresh cantaloupe and stuff. We're in California. People like their, have some California rolls, and so.
So in some aspects, we'll probably have to some people have to be at the track around 4 or 5 in the morning to see a little golden hour on race morning, while everybody's working at the garage and all that. But
it'll be fine. I think Thermal's a good track. I like the way the IndyCars get around Thermal, but I'd love to see them have all 27 cars on the track at once instead of doing the heat race thing. But, is what it is. Why they decided to do that, I don't know, but I'm sure there's some rhyme or reason to it. The track does not have the same infrastructure as a professional, spectator-ready course, but it does have FIA 2 certification, so it is a good, safe racetrack. So
yeah, I figured so. Looking at the track, it's aesthetically nice and all, but
very nice, yeah.
The question will be what drivers will compare it to, because a lot of people compare certain tracks to this track and all of that, but I feel like there's some elements of what they tested before or where they ran, but we'll see what kind of race will it produce.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right, so Formula 1, we're in Saudi Arabia. Race results are what you would expect.
Just listen to Bad Bunny's Monaco, and then you'll figure out the top 2.
I mean, just 2 Red Bulls at the top, followed by a Ferrari and a McLaren. All the good news in Formula 1 is off track. But let's talk about some on track news. Talk about Ollie Bearman. Here's this 18-year-old kid who was pressed into service on short notice. He had already won the pole for the Formula 2 race when Carlos Sainz was feeling ill, and they took him to the doctor, and they diagnosed him with appendicitis, and he was not cleared to race. So Ferrari needed a guy to put into that car. So they, got a nice red fire suit for Ollie Bearman and put him in the Ferrari for the weekend. He had to skip his Formula 2 race, which kind of puts him behind in that championship, missing a race. But, when you compare missing a Formula 2 race with making your Formula 1 debut and kind of showing the world what you can do, that's a no-brainer, right? 18-year-old. And he did well. I don't want to say he qualified, 7th.
think he
qualified.
missed out on Q3. He finished 7th.
Yeah, qualified 10th, finished 7th, something like that. So, but he, he kept the car clean, didn't get in trouble with anybody, and made it to the finish, which is really, for a debut, you can't ask for a lot more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's these guys that just struggle, run at the back, or crash the car, are the ones you're kind of like, oh, is this guy gonna make it? But bringing home the car in one piece is something that will endear you to the team owner 100% of the time. And earning points in your first Formula One race is something else that will get you brownie points. So suddenly this kid is a hot prospect to be in Formula One next year. And as recently as yesterday, his name is being mentioned in conjunction with, should they get the Andretti project approved and off the ground, which I don't know where we are with that. It might be time to bury that in the sand and come back in 2028. But GM is still pushing hard for that. So,
yeah. And as far as Bearman's performance, that's a good question. That's going to be the big question probably throughout the year now. Would he be willing to go to Formula One at age 19 next year with a team that is not like Ferrari up, or Ferrari are willing to have him stick around, wait about 3 to 5 years when he's a little bit more older, a little bit older, and then wait to see how Hamilton's tenure at Ferrari goes. If it's just one contract deal and then he's done, and then you put him in, or you want to put him somewhere else where get his foot on the ground, see if it continues to impress. Because you never know with Formula One sometimes. You can have this one great race in your debut, then you're the hot prospect, and then when you get an opportunity for a different team, you either sink or swim. I look at Nick DeVries, for example. Was able to score points before Nicholas Latifi at Monza. Gets a full-time opportunity, out the door by not even before halfway of the year. You never know with Formula One. So it's a good start, especially with a Ferrari. I think it's like been a half century that a Ferrari driver, that a rookie Formula One driver make a debut that drove for Ferrari. It's been over a half century, and it's one of the youngest drivers to have ever competed in Formula One to boot. And like the year that he was born, Alonso hadn't even won world champion. It was the year that Alonso won his first world title. So
I know, so young.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to see what will happen. Of course, this Formula 2 season the rest of the way, will that bring more motivation to him to kind of get a really strong championship? So if any of those teams that want some change want to bring him up right away, or there's a lot of domino effects that could play now because of it.
Yeah, I mean, they could put him in a Haas, they could put him in the Alpha, or whatever the hell they call that team now, Stake.
Kick Sauber. Oh wait.
Kicks, I don't know. So, and speaking of, like you said, guys that had a pretty good debut and not sure what to do with them next. So, Liam Lawson is still sitting on the sidelines at Red Bull, while Daniel Ricciardo is struggling mightily. I mean, we're 2 races in, and Yuki Tsunoda has beaten Ricciardo both times. And Ricciardo, in fact, I want to say the VCARB issued him a warning to say, hey, get your shit together, man. We can't be having this because you got Liam Lawson. He's ready to go. He's ready to jump in the car tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and people talk about Ricciardo replacing Perez, and this is what we're showing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's Perez is podium twice for his part this year. He's earning his keep. Max is winning the races so far. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because remember, it goes through a cycle.
Well, last year he earned his keep in the beginning. The races Max didn't win, he won. And the races that Max won, he finished second. And then the rest of the year, he was terrible.
Yeah, just don't have him sign contracts mid-season. Wait till the end and see if he's earned it.
Yeah.
That too.
But, Ricciardo under the gun there. Here's a guy who's been in and out of Formula One twice, right? And bounced around from a couple teams. He's won races. He's shown streaks of brilliance, but never really kind of put anything together long term.
Yeah, we still haven't seen that 2014 Ricciardo type of year. where he
and that's
destroyed Vettel, and that's what people thought we were going to see.
And we're 10 years past that now. So 10 years. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast time flies anymore. So, but anyway, so the latest Red Bull drama is that Helmut Marko is now maybe in danger of being suspended because he's suspected of having leaked information on the Christian Horner investigation to the press. So it just seemed like it
sounds like your junior pee-wee football high school dad drama.
It's like a Shark Tank over there at Red Bull. Everyone's trying to get rid of everybody else, but I mean, to the team's credit, they're still winning all the races. It hasn't really affected them on track, but I'm not sure how much this turmoil can go on before it begins to affect the performance of the race team. So
much less Max, because they're trying to get Max into something that he's probably had nothing to do with.
He's got nothing to do with it,
and they're trying to make it about him when he's like, I have nothing to do with this. As long as I'm performing and keep winning, that's all that matters. It's just adding unnecessary stress to Max because of his Josephine, I'm pulling him off the team. That's why I said high school dad, Airbud, for example, the high school dad and that movie pulled him out of the school to join another one just because they benched him for one play because the coach felt like he's being selfish. This play will work better without him and all of that, kind of humbling him.
Yeah, he's like the dad at the Little League game who runs out onto the field to yell at the referee.
That's what it sounds like.
To a large extent, I think Max needs to say, "Hey, Dad, stay home, watch the race on fucking TV." Oh, golly, I should not have said that. But
I mean, that's probably people would say that's what Logano did with Tom. Logano with Tom.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, Max is a grown man. He's a multiple world champion. He's doing everything that's expected of him. Why does he need his dad meddling in team operations, right? And to Richard's point, Jos Verstappen is no good dude when you look at his list of arrest record and court cases and stuff. He's the last person that he needs to be preaching to anybody about whatever they're doing in their off time. So
also he's kind of living off through Max, just because he was a mediocre Formula One driver, to where he wasn't a good number 2 to Michael. When you look at Johnny Herbert replaced him after.
Yeah, I mean, Verstappen's racing career came to not much, and sure, he's living vicariously through his. And we've seen this before with fathers that outshine their sons, right? And then we've seen the opposite, where sons are compared to their fathers who were incredible. Look at Ryan Blaney's career compared to his dad, Dave, right? Dave was good, but Ryan had a much more productive and fruitful career. But you don't see Dave Blaney out there yelling at Roger Penske, do you?
No, he's rarely there. You don't really see much of Dave. Of course, he was there at Phoenix because he's in that championship bout. And the thing about Dave is he was no slouch as a racer. He won the World Outlaws Championship. He was pretty good for what he was
pretty
given.
Good, yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just timing was not on his side, and all the top teams that were really good, they had long string of success. To where an opening was not there for Dave to be at a Penske or a Roush or a Hendrick, compared to Ryan, where he was with the Britt brothers with a Penske affiliation. He was able to do what he was able to do with Bryson. He got the shot of Penske. Look where he is at right now.
Yeah. And then to contrast that, you've got, say, like Marco Andretti, who was constantly compared to his dad and his grandfather for not living up to that Andretti name. And, of course, he couldn't get away from it because his dad was also his team owner. So,
now he's able to do things kind of his way now. Sure.
Yeah, because
running ARCA, SRX, and all of that.
Run some SRA, won the SRX championship. He's run some stock car races. He shows up every May for the Indy 500, but he's not under dad's thumb all the time. So
and the same thing with Colton and Brian Hurdle. They moved Brian to Kyle Kirkwood this mid-season.
I know Kirkwood's the guy winning races. So
yeah,
because truth be told, and no offense to the other guys in the Andretti team, is Herta's the best strategist on their team.
Mm-hmm.
Who's ever got Herta in their pit box is the guy winning races. It was Rossi, then it was Colton, now it's Kirkwood. But I mean, that's just Brian's a very talented guy. But again, even though Cole's right there in the team, you don't see Brian with the meddling.
No.
Brian goes in, does his job. Colton goes in, does his job. Jos Verstappen, he doesn't have a job with Red Bull.
He's just a spectator.
He needs to stay home, get a 6-pack of beer, watch the race on TV.
Yeah,
and then just cheer on his son. Get on Twitter and say, "Great job, Max! You won another race." That's where it needs to end.
Yeah, you don't even see Carlos Sainz out there doing the same shenanigans. Carlos Senior, where he's the only thing they just have that connection is they've won races and they've had the same issue with their health. Because I think they've made a photo like Carlo, the parody of his appendix or something like that. The same, it's like, well, at least they got that accomplished. It's a bummer for Carlos, and I hope Carlos has a good recovery from that. Like you don't see Carlos Senior acting like this either.
Yeah, speaking of recovery, back to IndyCar for a second. Malukas is also going to miss the thermal round. Callum will be in the car again there. So,
which I kind of expected because of the time window. I think everybody's looking at Long Beach where Malukas will make his McLaren debut.
Yeah, because then we got almost a month to Long Beach after thermal. So Long Beach is 6 weeks from St. Pete, and thermal's there in the middle. So yeah, he's got some time there. So all right, so Formula One, we're off to is it Australia next, I believe.
Yep.
So when we got a week off this week, so we'll talk about Australia next week. So let's move our thoughts over to Phoenix and to NASCAR. And it's unfortunate that Richard isn't here because he was lamenting the fact that Chevrolet has won everything in the world so far this year. And he says, I just hope a Pontiac wins. Any of them, I don't care which one. A Pontiac. Did I say Pontiac?
Yeah, you did say Pontiac.
Wow.
Pontiac, for those who
Toyota.
Yeah, you meant Toyota. Pontiac's not been around since the recession.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah.
At least they exited on top in Grand Am and in the NHRA Pro Stock division. So at least they were champions toward the bitter end.
Yeah. So I think Kyle Petty won a race in a Pontiac. Anyway, I just can't believe I just said it. I was thinking Phoenix and Toyota, and somehow I mixed those up and said Pontiac. But anyway, Richard works for Toyota, as we all know. He was hoping that a Toyota driver would win. I'm glad Richard's not here tonight because I'd never hear the end of that. And certainly Pontiac, great weekend for them. They swept both the Xfinity and the Cup races.
Yeah, there was a lot of excitement on that camp. If you want to talk about domination, from Joe Gibbs Racing, which was just the surprising note about that is that I think they're the first 4-car organization to have all 4 of their drivers lead 50 or more laps in a race.
Yes,
Hendrick's never done it.
I saw that
Roush
stat.
Never done it.
They had, so. But it's you gotta say it's probably due to them figuring out the new short track package better than the other teams there, and it's not large wholesale changes. They're trying to make the changes to the short track package incremental, little bit at a time over the next couple of years. But the changes are pronounced enough that Toyota got it right. And Ford did okay with it, and there wasn't a Chevy in the top 5.
Yeah, and it also track position was at a premium, but also I let that partially that Toyota just were strong. Like the only team that were Hendrick were not had a horrible day. Roush on the other hand, RFK had a great weekend. Towards the end,
Chris Buescher was Chris Buescher finished second, right?
Yeah, Keselowski had a good showing. Hendrick, we talk about Chevy dominance and Hendrick being up there. They were nowhere near to be found this weekend.
No, maybe they brought Pontiacs to the track.
Who knows? But it's like Christopher Bell got the win. This is his 7th win and as many racetracks. We talk about Bowman being the detrimental to the end of racetracks. Bell's just collecting racetracks like they're Pokemons.
Well, I mean, he's the right age to be collecting Pokemons too. So, but good job to Christopher Bell.
He's the same age as I am, and I know.
I like Christopher Bell. I had a chance to meet him when he was running Xfinity, and he had won the Xfinity race at Kentucky that one year. The one year the Xfinity got rained out, and we did the Xfinity and Cup on the same day. And that's the day I did something a little different. I had my press credentials, but I also volunteered as a track worker because it was something that a charitable organization that my kids were involved with were doing. Hey, come out here and work for the track. You'll get free tickets to the race. You get the shirt and the hat. The hat that says Kentucky Speedway staff. You'll get fed. You'll get this. You'll get that. I said, yeah, I'll do it to support this organization. And all we were doing was pretty much we're just at the front gate when people are coming in, handing out these little towels with the race logo on them. But at the same time, we had access to go everywhere. Plus I had my pit passes also. So, but that was just a fun thing. And it was just so wild for the fact that, so here I am just handing out the towels. Right. And, but people they say, oh, you work for the track. They come up and ask me all the questions. Hey, where's the tunnel to the infield? Where's the bathroom? Where's this? Where's that? And most of the other people there that were with that organization we were working for to raise money had no clue. But you know what? I knew all the answers. So to a large extent, I like to be the smartest guy in the room sometimes. But anyway, the long and short of that story was I got to kind of hang out with Christopher Bell when he was running Xfinity, and he's just a heck of a nice guy. So every time he wins a race, it puts a little smile on my face because I really like that dude.
Yeah. And some people are saying like Christopher Bell is the new Truex in the sense of how when he runs well, he runs really well and dominates.
Yeah, I mean,
he's but people talk about him being clutch, but I think there's something out there where of all the NASCAR winners of the number of wins average, how much of the race they led on average percentage, and I think Bell is up there. Truex is at number one, like 40% average as far as his time out front when he wins races, which came to no surprise because we all know when Truex is on it, he's on it, period.
Yeah. We've seen a couple of races where he's just decimated the field,
Yeah. And then the Bell, that's gotta keep an eye on him always because remember a year ago in the championship 4, he was the only one that made it back from the year prior. So he's looking to make a three-peat in the championship 4, but hopefully not have what happened a year ago where he crashed and retired, not be in that title hunt when it matters. So it's a good bounce back for him as far as Phoenix is concerned, but also good momentum going forward to see if this is the year where Christopher Bell is going to have a lot of race wins and be dominant to where you look at him as the definitive favorite rather as the underdog of the championship 4, like we've seen the past couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, it's
hard to say he is the underdog considering what he's been able to accomplish beforehand, but people see it as such.
It's tough because Chevy's already put their stamp on the super speedway type races, and there's some more of those coming up. So Toyota has proven they're really good with the short track package. And then there's there's the intermediate, and we haven't been on a road course yet.
So we're coming up to that with Coda.
Coda's coming, and Kobayashi's coming back with 23XI for Coda. Kobayashi, another real fun guy.
Yeah, let's just hope Ricky Stenhouse Jr. doesn't end up ruining his race like he did in the road course.
Yeah, Stenhouse did that on purpose too. He wanted to rattle the cages of these foreign guys coming into his sport, and all I can say is what an ass. I didn't like.
So hopefully he has a better showing, fair showing.
I didn't like Stenhouse before, but I liked him even less after that. And reading his comments, I mean, be a decent competitor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's just hope that doesn't happen again because when he got that whole thing with Indy, and we never got to see his full potential because of it, it affected his whole race.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you got a guy coming into that wants to join your sport, and especially a guy with great credentials, I mean, make them feel welcome. You know what I mean? Don't say, I'm going to run this foreign guy off the track. It's just, that's such antiquated thinking, But
Yeah,
that's Stenhouse for you. He's still bitter over Danica dumping him.
I think he's better off without her. Let's just,
yeah, probably so.
Because I mean, off air, those stories that we hear about her, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or even Formula One now.
Yeah, she's a little nutty, but that's okay. You know what I mean? So, all right, Xfinity race. Chandler Smith won the Xfinity race. Also, Joe Gibbs guy. So,
Chandler Smith, not Justin Allgaier.
Huh?
Chandler Smith, not Justin Allgaier, who won. Justin Allgaier had that in the bag, then he wrecked, and oh boy.
Well, you have to be running at the finish.
Yep.
Right. So,
all
right. So we're off to Bristol next. Bristol, which we'll get another look at. Another. I don't think the package for Phoenix is the same as it is at Bristol.
Who's to say? But all the talk about we could add 1,000 more horsepower, free of charge. Like that's been like the theme of this week. You heard from Kyle Larson. You have other drivers talking about it, but
they all want a higher horsepower package. Will we see that? I don't know. But you know what we won't see in Bristol this year? All that dirt. All that dirt. Yeah. So that was an experiment that was interesting. But at the end of the day, if you want to run dirt, go to a dirt track. Go to Eldora, go somewhere. Put some grandstands up at put dirt around Wilkesboro. Who cares?
I mean, they tried to run dirt when they were going to get rid of the surface, but it just never happened.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. Go to Langhorne.
Yeah, we got to destroy a couple buildings over there.
Yeah. Langhorne. Oh God, they had the part of the track used to call Puke Alley. So, yeah, no, just kidding. We don't want to go to Langhorne. Langhorne's responsible for killing a lot of great drivers. But yeah, so the dirt's gone. And admittedly, since something changed, one of the resurfacings, the Bristol races are not what they once were. It used to be one of the most exciting races on the calendar. It used to be one of the hardest tickets to get. And now, you're lucky to fill half the grandstands now. Mind you, they did blow up that place to put 180,000 seats in it, which is just absolutely not sustainable in today's economy. It worked out well for them in the 90s when you got to get on a wait list to get a ticket. But so I'm not sure what to expect out of Bristol. The last couple of races before the dirt or even the spring races have not been highly compelling compared to what we used to see there. So,
and also the weather has not helped them any favors at all for the last decade.
True. Although they have been testing rain tires at Bristol.
Yeah.
Richard's been there when they've done the rain tire test. They get these sprinklers out, get the track wet, and then run some laps there. But obviously, they're not going to race in a downpour. But they can race in a sprinkle, Evidently. I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on that. I know they're good to do that. They're going to do that at Martinsville because of the flat nature of the circuit. But Bristol with the banks, I don't know.
We'll see. The good news is what they have in their favor is the weather is improving.
Yeah.
Where it's only 12% chance, but I'm curious to see how many people will show up for it because last time Bristol Motor Speedway had a sellout was a college football game. And we're coming to a decade from that now.
And that was Virginia Tech and West Virginia. Was that right?
Tennessee versus whomever it was.
Virginia Tech.
I think so.
Wasn't it?
I know it had to be Tennessee. Tennessee for sure.
Well, I knew Virginia Tech was in there just because that's why I went to high school in Blacksburg, Virginia. So I kind of follow Virginia Tech sports. I remember Virginia Tech played a football game at Bristol Speedway. But we'll save that for our college football podcast. So we've don't have Lee here, and we're supposed to talk about the NHRA. So I'll just go over the results real quick because I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. Louise, did you get a chance to watch any of it?
All I know is that Eric Anders won and Tony Stewart got eliminated in the first round in Top Fuel.
Right. So Top Fuel winner was Sean Langdon. J.R. Todd took home the Wally in Funny Car. Eric Anders in Pro Stock. Gator in Pro Stock Motorcycle. So those are your big winners in NHRA at the Gator Nationals. And if Lee was here, he'd elaborate a little more, but his current schedule is going to have him every other Wednesday with us. So we'll probably try to shift our NHRA to more comments every other Wednesday. So and I might hire another guy. I might hire About Broke Bubba. I don't know. I haven't met the guy yet, but he sounds like a lot of fun. I hate to say it, just because he made his name About Broke Bubba. I know that guy has a good sense of humor to begin with, just to name his podcast that. So anyway, 6 minutes to go, Louise. What do you think? What you got for me?
I think for race picks at Bristol, since it's really the only noteworthy race that we got this weekend, I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. I think he finally ends, what is it now, his 100-plus race winless streak. I think.
Oh, it's been a while, but he's run well.
Yeah, and I say that, it's like, I could pick anybody. I will not be able to pick Blaney, because when it comes to Blaney in Bristol, he'll give you a good race, and then he'll have his usual bad luck at Bristol. So I'm going to go with Keselowski. He finally breaks through and gets that winless streak snapped.
Bristol. So Richard's going to pick a Toyota driver. Anyone, I don't care.
He'd probably pick Reddick.
So he's going to get Reddick. We'll give him Reddick. But any Toyota he'd be happy with. Keep the boss happy. He don't need to be out here picking Fords or Pontiacs. So.
Or Dodge.
Or Oldsmobile. I used to have an Oldsmobile. I had an Oldsmobile Delta 88. I just needed a car quick, picked it up for $1,500, and I drove it around for 2 years. And it looked like hell, but it drove.
I'd imagine it. Sterling Marlin in the
drove
44.
So nice. It was like driving a yacht, and it was big and it was smooth. Yeah, but every time I got behind somebody, they thought I was a cop and they would slow down. So anyway, that's a story for our Cars We Used to Have podcast. Bristol, I want to like Kyle Busch, but he really hasn't come out of the box strong this year. Although he looked decent at Daytona, but you can't.
It was good at Daytona. But
I mean, you can't compare Daytona performance to what's going to happen at Bristol. But I want to say that because Toyota figured out the short track package so well at Phoenix, that some of that's going to translate to Bristol, and I want to pick a Toyota driver. So I think I'm going to go on a limb and say that Ty Gibbs wins his first Cup race.
I would not be surprised, to be honest. I think
he's ready. Ready.
He was doing really good at Phoenix. It's like, oh, this might be the day for Ty, but then a wall hit, a long pit stop, that pretty much eliminated any chance he had of winning. So Gibbs has been up there. The biggest question, will Austin Dillon make it to lap 5 without wrecking? He said the worst. He said abysmal luck with that.
Yeah. Austin Dillon is, his career has been interesting. You know what I mean?
I still can't believe he has not shown progress, because I think everyone we're talking about, he's got Kyle Busch as a teammate. Now he'll have to improve. He must improve. What has he done?
He's
regressed
backwards.
even worse.
He's gone backwards. Yeah. So I mean, here's a guy that was winning Daytona 500s not that long ago.
He was winning races out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And now
he's
he can't even
nowhere.
He can't even make it 5 laps without getting into somebody else's mess, or be the mess, but more or less has been somebody else's mess.
Yeah. It's Austin Dillon for you. Worry about his reality show.
Yeah, and then that hasn't been on there in like 3 years. But another thing about Phoenix is that
speaking of stuff on streaming, I didn't want to make a mention that the biography of Dan Weldon, Lionheart, debuted yesterday on HBO and Max streaming, or an HBO at home, or the Max streaming channel. I've got like every streaming channel in the world except Max, so I haven't had a chance to see it. But yeah, a lot of folks really have some strong emotions watching this film. Because Dan was well loved in the sport, then he was gone so suddenly, and he was right at a point where his career was about to turn around, because he had. He
replaced Danica.
He was just about out of the sport. He had a one-off for the Indy 500, comes in, wins the race, and then he was signed to rejoin Andretti Autosport at the conclusion of the 2011 season. And then, of course, we all know he perished in that awful crash at Vegas at the end of the season. And then Hinchcliffe ended up in that car, and and of course now. Both the Weldon's kids are young race car drivers of their own. They're both in a different Road to Indy series. They've both been doing well. And I think all this is documented in the film. There's a lot of footage. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I really want to. I'm going to have to see which friend of mine has a Max and say, hey, I got a case of beer. Let me come on over to your house. I'll bring a pizza and some beer. We'll watch this. So, but so that's also good news to know that that is out there. If you have Max, tune in. Dan Weldon was a remarkable individual, taken from us too soon, and he's still sorely missed in the sport. So now that takes us to the end of our hour. So Louise, I want to thank you, and I also want to thank your brand, Louise Torres Multimedia. Again, thanks to those folks at We Love Racing. Thanks to Facebook Live, iHeartRadio, and Sirius XM, and Spotify, not Sirius. Sirius want to thank Bon Jovi, but Spotify. And thank you to Citizen One Productions. Keith Hayes, our producer. Keith, you're wonderful. But to you folks that listen to us every week, we appreciate you so much. Have a good night. We'll talk to you in a week.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinister One production.